Okay, for this lesson, I'll show you how to solve equations, right? Some basic ones, right? We'll start off with some basic ones. What makes something an equation? Say we have an expression, right? M plus 2. Okay, so that's an expression. You have the variable m, right? The letter m, the number 2. Now I'm going to make this into an equation. All I have to do is put an equal sign. Equal to, say, -5. Right? So now it's an equation because of the equal sign. And that's it, right? So now what if we want to solve, right, for this, or solve this equation? Another way of saying it is just to solve for m, to get m by itself. Right? So in order to do that, we look at on the left hand side of the equation, right? So this is the left hand side, we'll call it LHS, and here's the right hand side, okay, we'll call it RHS, right? Just like Revere High School. Okay, so looking on the left hand side, there's an m and a 2, so we want to get rid of that plus 2, right? In order to do that, we have to do the opposite of addition, right? Since it's a plus sign there, so we'll just take -2 on this side, on the left hand side. Okay, but what you do to one side, you have to do the exact same thing to the other side because you want the equation to be balanced, right? You want to keep it balanced. So -2 here, you want to do -2 over here as well, right? So let me draw the line. There's that little line here to keep it nice and neat. So now our equation is m, right, on the left hand side. The +2 and the -2, they cancel, right? Now they go to 0, so we're good. But on the right hand side we have -5 -2, right? So that'll give us -7, right? So we essentially solved for m, right? So m is equal to -7. Okay. We can also check our answer. So let's do a check on the right hand side over here. Let's check it, right? So we'll plug -7 back into, well, let's rewrite the equation, right? Our original equation was m plus 2 equals -5, right? So I'm going to plug in the -7 that we solved for m. So let's plug in, so m is now -7, right? And then we're adding the 2, right, +2, and to check to see if it's equal to -5, right? So if we do this out, -7 plus 2 is -5, and on the right hand side it's also -5. So let's give ourselves a little check here. -5 is equal to -5. And so we're done with this one. Alright, so let's take a look at another example. Let's say we have x minus 3 equals -12, right? So we want to solve for x, right? So what we're going to have to do is add 3 to both sides of the equation, right? Because this is a -3, so you want to add 3 here because you want this to be 0, and add 3 here. Okay, so when you do that, draw a line here. What will happen to the left hand side? Well, this is just x now, right? Because we have this -3 and this +3, they go to 0, so we're good with that. And this is on the right hand side we have -12 plus 3, so -12 plus 3 is just -9. Okay, So we solve for x, right? We solve for this equation here. We solve this equation for x, right? And that's it. That we're done with this one as well. So we're happy. Let's see if we can do another one. Let's say we have negative 20 equals 4x, right? And I want to solve for x. Now the x is on the right hand side. It doesn't matter which side x is on, right? We still want to get rid of everything that's around x. So in this case there's a 4 there and it's being multiplied. We can put a dot there. So now we want to get rid of that 4. So what we want to do is divide by 4, right? Since this is multiplication, the opposite is division. So divide that by 4, but we want to keep the equation balanced, right? So we're going to have to divide this side by 4 also. Okay? And now we can go ahead and cross some stuff out, right? So we'll have a negative 4 here. So do it with this color here. So this 4 and this 4, right? So now we're down to just the x. Okay? And then here on the left hand side we have negative 20 divided by 4, so that's just a negative 5. Okay? So we normally put the x first, so we can just switch this around here. X equals negative 5. Okay? So that's pretty much it here. X equals negative 5. And you can always go back and check your answer. Right? So this one's good also. Alright, let's say we have this equation. We have negative 8 equals b over 5. Right? Again, we want to solve this equation for b, so we want to get b by itself. So looking at the right hand side here, it's being divided by 5, right? So the opposite of that would be multiplication. So we want to multiply, so dot, multiply this side by 5 over 1, right? So when you do this, this will become b, so that's good, right? And we want to do the same thing on this side. So when you're dealing with negative numbers, just make sure you put parentheses around it, and we want to multiply this by 5 over 1. Okay, so now it's just a multiplication problem in terms of the fractions. So let's go ahead and do that, right? So I think it was this one here. So let's say equal, right? Now what happens on the right hand side? Well, we can actually cross out this 5 and this 5, right? Because 5 over 5 is just 1, so we can just get rid of it. So now we're down to just the b, right? Or b over 1, but you can ignore that. And on the left hand side, if you want, you can put this over 1, but it doesn't change anything. And when you multiply in fractions, you just multiply across. So 5 times the negative 8 gives us a negative 40 over 1, right? Which is just negative 40. And that's equal to, let's make that a little bit nicer, right there, right? And it's equal to b, right? But we want to write it like this maybe. So maybe b is equal to negative 40, right? So that's it. We solve for b. We're golden. Alright, let's move up a level. Let's say we have x minus, in parentheses, negative 5 is equal to 7. Right? So we want to get to solve for x again, right? X is on the left hand side. So let's first multiply these two negatives. So when we do that, so a negative times a negative, right? That's gonna give us a positive 5. Okay. Now here it's just the x, and here we just have a positive 7, right? That looks a little bit better. So all we have to do now is minus the 5 to both sides, right? Because we want to get the x by itself. So I'm going to do that here on the left hand side, but I'm also going to do it over here, right? So you can keep the equation balanced, and that's what you want, right? So now look at what happened here. So the positive 5 and the negative 5 go to 0, and then on the left hand side we have just the x, so let's bring that down. Done. 7 minus 5, guess what? That's just 2. And we're done with that one, right? And we're happy. Let's take a look at something like this, where we have y plus 1 over 12 is equal to negative 3 over 12, right? So here we have a fraction. It doesn't matter what it is, right? We still need to bring this 1/12 to this side, right? So that's what I'm going to do. Well, it's plus here, so you always take the sign to the left of it. So this is plus, so we're going to minus the 1/12 here, right? Then you're going to do the same thing on this side. Make it easy, I'll just write it like this, minus 1/12, right? So anything you do to one side, you have to do the exact same thing to the other side, right? Just remember that. So now, guess what? This whole thing is just 0, so let's just cross that out, get rid of it. So we're just left with the y here, right? And it's equal to. Now we have to do a little bit of adding fractions here, right? So we have a 12 and 12 for the denominator, so that's one less thing to do. We don't have to solve for or look for the LCD. So now we just have to do this out. So negative 3 minus 1, that'll give us negative 4 over the 12. But that reduces to just negative 1 over 3. Okay, so y is equal to negative 1 over 3. You can write it maybe over here. So y is equal to negative 1 over 3. Okay, and that's our final answer here. Okay. Okay, we're reaching the finish line. We're almost done. So let's say we have 1/8 is equal to maybe 3/8 m. Okay. Now I want to solve for m for this equation. So I want to get rid of this 3/8 here. So what I want to do is multiply by the reciprocal, right? The reciprocal of 3/8 is just the flip of that, right? Pretend you can just rotate it around, right? So 3/8, if I were to flip it, it'll become 8 over 3, right? So that's the reciprocal, all right? So now let's do that. So I'm going to multiply the right hand side by 8 over 3. Done, right? But I have to do the exact same thing on the left hand side, right? Otherwise the equation is no longer balanced. We want to keep the equation balanced at all times, right? So let's do that. 8 over 3 here. Okay, so looking at the right hand side, right? This I'll just change the color so you can see better. So this 8 and this 8, right? They go to 1, and then this 3 and this 3, they go to 1. So we're pretty much good. We'll just be left with the m. Right, so it's just m. Or if we want to multiply it out, it will be 24 over 24, which is just 1. So that's fine. We're not going to write the 1 there. You guys know it's 1. And here you can multiply it out, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to reduce this a little bit. So 8 goes into 8 one time, and then 8 goes into 8 one time. So I can do that, right? So now I can multiply it out. It makes it a little bit easier to do that beforehand. You always want to reduce when you can, right? So 1 times 1. So this is just a multiplication of fractions problem, right? So we have 1 times 1. That's just 1. Done. 3 times the 1. That's just 3. So draw a little arrow here. So I'm going to just write this where the m is to the left. Is on the left hand side. Is equal to the 1 over 3. And guess what? We're done with this one as well. Alright, we're down to the last problem here. So let's say we have -2 plus 5 over 7x is equal to 3. Okay, so what I want to do here is add the 2 first, right? Add the 2 here too, right? So let's draw a nice line, and what happens here, right? This -2 and +2 go to 0, right? 5, 7x, we'll just leave it like that. And on the right hand side, it's just 5, right? 3 plus 2 is 5. Okay? So all we have to do now is multiply by the reciprocal of 5, 7. So flip it, right? 7 over 5. You know, you do to one side, you have to do the exact same thing to the other side. So 7 over 5. If you want, you can put the 5 and then put over 1 just to make it easier if you want to multiply it out. You don't have to. When you get pretty good at it, you don't have to do that, right? So now we look at on the left hand side, right? 7, 7, they both go to 1, 1. 5 and 5, they both go to 1, 1. So it's just 1x, right? 1x, or just the x. On the right hand side, right? Let's simplify a little bit. This 5 goes to 1, this 5 goes to 1, so we're good. So when we multiply it out, we're going to get 1 times 7, which is 7, over 1 times 1, which is 1. But that's just 7. So x is equal, I'll put it up here. X is equal to 7. Right? And finally, we are done. All right.